October 2017, Australia built its last car, and with it, an entire dream died. At Holden's Elizabeth plant, workers stood shoulder to shoulder. Some clapped, others cried, as the last red Commodore crept off the line. It wasn't just a factory shutting down, it was the day Australia stopped making car, forever. For nearly 7 decades, Holden wasn't just a company, it was Australia on 4 wheels. From the first 1948 model, to the rumbling V8s that shook the suburbs, Holden was independence. A jingle even set it straight. Football, meat pies, kangaroos, and Holden cars.
And what's your favourite car, Australia?
Holden!
Let me see, that's football, meat pies, kangaroos, and Holden cars, huh?
Right!
Owning one wasn't just buying transport, it was belonging. So when sales started collapsing in the 2000s, it wasn't just about business. It was a gut punch to national pride. Losing Holden felt like losing a mate, the one who's been there at every barbecue, every road trip, every Bathurst. Holden began as nation building on wheels. In 1948, Prime Minister Ben Chifley sat in the first Holden and grinned, "She's a beauty." Through the 60s and 70s, Holden ruled. Kingswoods in the driveway, Monoros on posters, Tiranas screaming down Mount Panorama, and at Bathurst, the rivalry that split families in two, Ford versus Holden. You didn't just buy a car, you picked a side. But patriotism isn't a strategy. By the 2000s, Aussies had moved on. SUVs, fuel-efficient imports, Holden scrambled, smaller cars, European models, even rebadged German Opels. But Aussies saw through it. You can't slap a kangaroo on an Opel and call it Aussie. And Holden wasn't alone. This wasn't just one brand falling behind. It was the collapse of an entire industry. Mitsubishi shut its Adelaide plant back in 2008. Ford closed in 2016. Toyota followed in 2017. And then finally Holden. One by one, every car maker walked away. Australia became the only developed country on Earth that didn't build cars. Behind the scenes, billions in government subsidies kept Holden alive. But in 2013, Canberra basically dared them to sink or swim. And when GM's bosses in Detroit ran the numbers, the answer was brutal. Aussie-made cars were costing far more to build than imports, and sales were falling every year. To them, the maths was simple: shut the plants and bring cars in from overseas. That's when the decision was made. Holden's future wouldn't be built in Australia anymore. October 20th, 2017, Elizabeth, South Australia. The final Commodore rolled off the line. Workers hugged, wiped away tears, snapped selfies with history. The factory floor erupted in applause, but the cheers sounded like goodbyes. Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull called it a very sad day and reminded us, everyone has a Holden story. That day felt like a funeral for the great Aussie car dream. Almost 1,000 workers lost their jobs that day. Thousands more in dealerships and suppliers followed. Elizabeth, a town built on Holden, went quiet overnight. Some retrained for defense and aerospace. Many never found secure work again. Studies later showed 1 in 3 never landed full-time jobs again. The factory site itself found a second life. It was partly transformed into a defense and aerospace hub, building ships, submarines, armored vehicles. Some former Holden workers retrained into those industries, giving the town a second life. But ask locals, and they'll tell you, the hum of car factories was never replaced. Then came the final insult. In 2020, GM killed the Holden brand completely. No more showrooms, no more Lion badge. And this, after pocketing more than $2 billion in taxpayer subsidies. Scott Morrison put it bluntly, they took the money, then walked. But here's the twist, the legend only grew. The last ever Commodore sold for $750,000. Car clubs swelled, TikTok lit up with retro Holden ads, and at Bathurst, fans said Holden's death spelled the end of Aussie motorsport as we know it. Patriotism isn't a business model. Love alone can't save you when the economics collapse. Adapt or die. Holden missed the SUV wave. Markets don't wait for legends. Rivalry is rocket fuel. Ford versus Holden wasn't marketing. It was tribal war. And tribal war sells until one tribe disappears. You can't live on subsidies. Billions propped Holden up. But politics always changes. Handouts aren't strategy. We break down stories like this every week at Media Mates. If you're building a brand and need growth strategies, reach out. We'd love to help. Holden didn't just build cars. They built a nation's confidence. From the proud "She's a Beauty" of 1948 to the tearful goodbye in 2017. Their story shows how business can become identity. The great Aussie car dream may have ended, but its echo still roars down every road where a Holden lives on. Holden showed us that a brand can be more than business. It can be identity. And that's the kind of story we share here every week. Hit subscribe and come along for the ride.